Welcome to Schupak Sports, and I'm Marty Schupak, and you're watching this video module. It's going to be T-ball practice template number 10. We're going to go over a number of things, and it's brought to you by T-Ball America and tballamerica.com. Whether it's T-ball or up to that college scholarship, please check out www.tballamerica.com. We're going to go over a typical practice. Before we do, we usually give a trivia question, but I'm going to do it a little differently this week. I'm going to do something, and you all remember they used to have something called You Make the Call. I'm going to give you a situation on the field, and we're going to play umpire, and I'll come back to the answer at the end. All right, let's see if I can explain this right. There's a base runner at third base. The batter hits the ball. Base runner comes home. He's called out. Oh, actually, he's called safe. The catcher vehemently is arguing, waving his hands, screaming. The runner that hit the ball is very fast. He's rounding first, going to second, rounding second, going to third, about to round third, and the umpire throws the catcher out of the game. The base runner continues rounding third, and he touches home. Does the run count? And the issue is the fact that the umpire threw the catcher out of the game before he scored, and we'll come back to that. Okay, let's get into this right away. T-ball template practice number 10. If you've watched these before, I go through a typical practice. I try to explain my theories, why I do certain things. Pay close attention to the audio. I give subtle hints throughout. It's going to run between 18 and 24 minutes. I'll try to go quick. In this practice, I start out with a scrimmage. And I'll tell you my theory behind this. Normally, we leave the scrimmage to the end of practice, but I learned early on a technique where as players arrive at practice, I give them a number. So if there's 12 players on a team, I give them a number 1 to 12. And what I do is, number one, when we do a scrimmage or batting practice, if the players are older, they will be up first. And what this is doing, it's motivating the kids to get to practice on time. A typical T-ball practice could go anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour. Shouldn't go any longer than that. If a player comes 20 minutes late, if it's an hour practice, he misses a third of it. If it's a short practice, 30 minutes, he almost misses the whole thing. I start out with a quick scrimmage. The first player to arrive, he's number one, and he gets in the batter's box. I have the batting tee already set up. As the other players arrive at practice, and the parents will be wondering, what's going on? You guys are scrimmaging now? I mean, is this going to be a regular thing? And what I tell them is, you have to come to practice on time to see what we're going to do. Now, if you continue to coach baseball and softball, use this technique. The players, I promise you, will change their schedule with their parents to arrive at practice early, okay? That's the first thing I do. After that, I go right into a warm-up. As you know, I'm very big on warm-ups. Whether it's 3 minutes, 5 minutes, or 7 minutes, you have to have a warm-up, okay? Then I do a drill, and I've showed this before. It's the line throw drill, where I have 2 lines of players at shortstop and third base, and I line up baseballs, soft cover balls on the go command. The player from third base will run up, pick the ball up, and throw it to first base. Now, the T-ball, I use a coach or a parent as a first baseman. And also in T-ball, I shorten the field where I make it a shorter throw. After the player throws the ball, he goes to the end of the next line. As he's doing that, I yell, go to the player at shortstop. The key to this drill, actually the good part of this drill, is that the players are getting a lot of repetitions in a short period of time. I do this with older kids, but in the T-ball age group, I try to emphasize to the players, they do not have to reach first base on the fly. I just want them to get it into the direction of first base. Now, most of the throws are not going to go right to the coach who's playing first. They'll go to his left, to his right. Very few will go over his head, but you want to get them used to throwing to first base. And the reason I do the drill the way it is, the longest throw in the infield is from third base. So I like to utilize that. All right, so that's the line throw drill. And you line up the baseballs, okay? That's the first drill after the scrimmage or the second drill. After I do that, in this practice, I'm going to do 3 different stations, and I use my assistant coaches or parents. And by the way, I'm going to have an advanced tip in a minute. I just want to point out, and I say this every template that I speak to you people about, you can never have enough assistant coaches or volunteers, especially on the T-ball level. If anything, is you want to make the surroundings safe. Kids have a tendency to pick up bats if they see them lying around. What I usually do is, at the parents' meeting, I tell every parent, and I've said this before, I even said in the last session, every one of you parents is an assistant coach. Some will hem and haw, I don't care. Everyone's an assistant coaches. I don't care if you have 2 jobs or 3 jobs. When I see you at a practice, I'm going to pull you out of the car. If you're a woman and you have high heels and you wear a skirt, doesn't matter. I'm going to pull you out of the car to help with the practice. The 3 drill stations I use here, and I'll get back to them, is one, it's called the turn drill. One is called the freestanding bench throw drill. And one is called King Arthur. Now, if you have 12 players, you have enough assistant coaches, you could actually double up on some of these drills. Let me go through each one. The turn drill is where you're testing a young player's reaction time. And I have their back to the coach, as you see, and I misplaced my pointer. Here it is. And on the go command, the player will turn around, but as he's turning around, the coach would have thrown a ground ball. And he has to stop the ball, okay? Keep in mind, this is a great drill because you can adjust it to fit the parameters of the player's skill. When players are older, 10, 11, 12, I throw like a fly ball or a line drive. I use a soft covered ball. Remember, the back is to the coach, but I make sure I'm throwing ground balls. So what I'm doing is I start to throw a ground ball, I yell turn, the player will turn around and he'll try to stop the ball. Very important, I've said it a lot of times, he'll try to stop the ball. He doesn't have to necessarily catch it. He's got to keep the ball in front of him. I love to do this station with the players with the bare hands first, okay? As you see here, I have 1 coach and 2 players. Again, depending upon how many assistant coaches or parents you have, you could have 3 players here. Go one at a time, one at a time, one at a time. And after they catch or stop the ball, I have them roll it over to the side. It's one of these drills where, and I'm going to get into that with the tip, I'm going to have a throwing tip where I would like to separate skills, okay? The next drill is I call the freestanding bench throwing drill. And a lot of kids, not just in T-ball, when they're throwing a baseball, they don't bring their arm all the way back. And a lot of times, even if they think they're bringing their arms all the way back, they're not. What I'm doing here is I'm putting a coach at the foot of the bench. The player lies down with the ball, and he's got to wind his arm down and toss it over here to the coach on the bench. What this is doing is it's giving the players the feeling of the arm going all the way back. So even if certain players will say, I am bringing my arm back, and they're really not, they'll feel a difference, and the gravity is helping them. Couple of things. don't go out and buy a freestanding bench. I've done this on bleachers out of school. You have to be careful. You have to place the player correctly. Okay. And especially don't go out and buy 12 benches. Um, I like to repeat this for the players that are not bringing their arm back because the muscle memory will help them bring their arm back. So that's the second station. The third station is kind of like a fun drill. It's called King Arthur. And it's really good for eye-hand coordination. And it's a very good at-home drill. You could take a broom pole, or I like to use a closet pole, which is about 1 3/8 thick. I use plastic balls. And as you see, they're holding it like in the olden days of King Arthur. That's why I call it. And they try to make contact with the ball on the outside of their hands. Okay. You could increase or decrease the amount of space depending upon the player's age and ability. So after I do the line drill, we do the station drills. Again, just to review, the first one is the turn drill. Very good drill. You could do it when the kids are older. If you're coaching baseball and softball, even up to 15 or 16, you could throw line drives. You just got to be careful. Use soft cover balls. The other station is the freestanding bench throwing drill. We want to get T-ball players to bring their arms all the way back. And the next drill is King Arthur, which, by the way, this is a great at-home drill. Okay, so those are 3 drills. I just want to go over, and I usually do this in the middle of the session, a couple of tips I want to give, and I briefly alluded to it, a throwing tip. And this is especially true when the kids are very, very young. And I'm hoping in the next session to just do a session just on throwing, because I think it's very, very important. Keep in mind, too, the kids' motor skills, they advance at different stages. Each kid is different, okay? And you should explain that at the parents' meeting. And by the way, make sure you have a parents' meeting. It'll cut down on anywhere from 40 to 60% of the complaints, and continue having a parents' meeting as you coach older kids. And I don't care if you coach them basketball, ice hockey, or football, always have a parents' meeting. But the throwing tip I want to give is you want to separate skills for the really young kids, not the kids that are returning for a second-year T-ball. And when I say that is, if you're teaching throwing, don't have the players catch the ball. And if you're teaching players to catch the ball, don't have them throw it. So if you're lined up and you want them to throw, you want to have a bucket with soft cover balls. You want to pick it up and throw it to the coach, and then pick up the next ball and throw it to the coach. The coach does not throw it back. Remember, separate skills. Okay. My advanced tip is this, and I said it a couple of sessions ago. I had a couple of nice emails. I'll go through it again. If you're going to continue to coach baseball and softball, make sure that you practice base running. It'll make you a better coach. And I'm not just saying practice running around the bases. You have to investigate different drills to use. And the reason why is, if you practice base running when kids are older, I promise you, most of the other coaches in your league are not going to practice base running. So you're going to have, and no pun intended, like a leg up on them. I always spent 10 to 15 minutes practicing base running with my team, and there are times it really carried us into the championship. You have to practice it. Remember, there's a difference in practicing certain techniques and telling kids what to do from the third base coaching box. If you're practical with each kid practicing, they get used to it. And there's a lot of different drills. You have to investigate it. And maybe I'll point a resource out at the end. Another quick tip, advanced tip, you do it any way you want. I like to write out my practices on an index card. I would do this every day. I date it, I write it out in pencil, and I keep it in my back pocket. By the end of practice, it's very smudged. I don't care. And I always do, and I recommend this, I always put on the back alternate drills. I find if drills aren't working or the practice is going faster than I wanted it to, I might have time to fill. All right, let's get back to the T-ball practice template number 10. I've showed this drill before. It's called the high-low drill. I run a piece of painter's tape. Usually I use blue tape across the fence. I spread the players out. They're a lot more spread out than here. Okay, you want, when you're doing throwing drills, you want it spread out. And the player has a target, and before they throw, there's a bucket of balls. I'll yell at either high or low. If I yell at high, they have to throw the balls above the blue line. If you yell out low, they have to throw below it. Make sure you spread it out. And this is a great drill to teach the players how to step in the ball. You have to find out your league's policy with the fence, okay? You don't want to throw or hit hard balls against a fence, and some leagues don't want you to do soft covered balls, which I don't think is really going to bother the fence, but you have to ask your league. All right, next drill. The next drill is I'm integrating the drills with fun things to do. Remember, the best formula you could do as a youth sports coach is to integrate skill drills with fun drills. You'll get the best results, I promise you that. And don't think if you're coaching 15, 16, 17-year-olds that it's, I don't know, it's immature to do a fun drill. You could do it. I've seen the best coaches do extremely, what I consider fun, sappy drills that work. So what I did here is, and what I've always recommended, I've taken a kid's game, red light, green light, and I put a baseball theme in it where the caller has to wear a glove, and every one of the T-ball players that are running up, they should wear a glove and have a ball in it. And the baseball theme we're trying to teach these kids is to squeeze the ball with their glove, okay? They run and they try to, and we all know how the game goes. We have one caller and they have to run up, as he says, red light, green light, 1, 2, 3, and he turns around and players run up and they freeze. The one that touches him and they have to run back to the line. Again, you could be creative. And if you see a game that you could make into a game that has a baseball theme or softball theme, by all means do it. And then, of course, just the way we started on this practice, I do a scrimmage. First, I divide them up. And then I have them, together. Make sure you rotate players. If you have players in the infield, rotate them to the outfield. Use your parents. The P stands for parents here, but it depends how many players you have. Don't deny your players hitting or scrimmages. So that's it. We're going to wrap it up. We're going to go back to the, oh, by the way, if you can, and I want to get to a couple of products, which I promised. If you can, please subscribe. If you're involved in a league, please share it, especially if you're like a district administrator in Little League or a higher up, a president of a league. Please share it. It's all free. And I just want to keep this free format going. As far as products, let me just turn around. Okay, here we go. This is like probably my most popular item for T-ball skills and drills book. It's a great supplement to the video, which is available. Don't pay for it. If you don't have the money, go to your library. They'll get it for you. You can insist upon it, okay? Another item you can look, it's a little more higher for kids older than T-ball. It's infield team playing strategies. It's on Amazon, and it's for free. It's on Kanopy through your local library. Check it out. Go to your library. Utilize your library. It's such a great resource, and it doesn't cost you anything. You're paying for it in your taxes, and of course, we're all paying too much in taxes. Let's go back to the original again. Please subscribe. Remember, the player hit a ball, and there was a player at home plate. He was called safe. The catcher was arguing. As they were arguing, the player that hit the ball was rounding the base. He was very fast. By the time he got to third or just around third, he was thrown out of the game, the catcher. The runner scored. Does the run count or does it not count? The answer is it does. Yes, it does count. Disqualification in a play does not take place until the action stops. Okay, so I've seen it happen. I remember watching a game, a New York Yankee game, where David Cohn was arguing a play, and a player just kept going around the bases. So if you're going to argue, you're going to have to save it and limit your arguing and don't try not to get thrown out of the game. Remember, I always tell my team, older kids, because a lot of the umpires are real good, some aren't good. We try to play the game where we don't put the game in the hands of the umpire. All right. Look for some resources if you're going to continue coaching for base running. They're out there. I have one. It's a video called Base Running and Bunting Drills, but there are a lot of others. So for Marty Schupak and Schupak Sports, and please subscribe. And again, this was sponsored by T-Ball America, tballamerica.com. From T-Ball to that college scholarship, check out tballamerica.com. Until then, see you at third base.